Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains discussion video. Unfortunately, the time has come, the confirmation that we have all been, at least most of us have been expecting. The writing was on the wall for Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains to be ending this month has finally been confirmed. We got the summaries a little earlier than I thought we would. I thought we would get them on September 6th. They actually came out this morning, this Thursday morning. And so before I get into what the summaries actually entail, I do want to confirm that episode 120, the episode airing on September 25th, is going to be the final episode, concluding Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains at 120 episodes, the shortest show in the history of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. It's not really fair to compare it to Duel Monsters and GX since those shows ran way longer than the other spin-offs did, but for reference, 5Ds had 154, Zexal had 146, I believe, and Arc 5 had 148. VRains is going to have 26 episodes less than Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, which before VRains was the shortest running show in Yu-Gi-Oh! history, and 26 episodes is literally 6 months, and it makes sense because most likely 6 months, or doesn't make sense, but it fits the bill, that 6 months is probably going to be how long we have to wait for a Yu-Gi-Oh! 7. The only news that we have on a new Yu-Gi-Oh! show is that it is going to be starting in 2020, which is next year, and it will be a show that changes the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Forever, which could very well just be a catchy tagline. It might not mean anything more than that, but we do know a new Yu-Gi-Oh! show is in production, and I guess for 6 months, the studio is not going to have anything but that show to focus on. With Yu-Gi-Oh! It has always been, they run for 3 years, they go until March, which is the 3-year period, April to March, however long it takes them 3 years later to get to that March, and then the very next month in April, a new Yu-Gi-Oh! show begins, and so the studio for decades have had to balance starting a new show and concluding the current one, and then the second the show gets concluded, the new show immediately begins. At least the advantage with this is 6 months, at least 6 months. I mean, we don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh! 2020 very well could start when, like, the October animes start. I mean, there's a chance that we will be waiting a full year for Yu-Gi-Oh! 2020 to begin, as opposed to just 6 months. We have no confirmation on when Yu-Gi-Oh! 6 is going to start, and it's going to be weird with no Yu-Gi-Oh! For at least 6 months, at least 26 weeks. That's kind of, it's going to be tough to pass the time, especially for someone like me who, for at least a decade now, has always consistently had something to look forward to every week in terms of a piece of media, and that's going to be kind of depressing. And just VRains ending in general is very depressing, obviously. But the point I was just making is that the studio is going to have a full at least 6 months to have the entire focus on Yu-Gi-Oh! 7. They're going to save budget for the first time in their studio's history. They're going to be able to really focus in on one show as opposed to 2 shows before the show gets started. So I think that should only benefit Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, and I'm very excited to see what Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 is going to be all about. It would be great if it is a crossover show of some sorts, kind of like Infinity War, like with the Avengers, how they all got together. It would be amazing if all the previous Yu-Gi-Oh! shows somehow did that and all the characters got together. The odds of that are probably slim because, well, they'd have to get a lot of the voice actors to return, but it might be possible. I think it would be really cool if it was something along those lines. But yeah, this is it for VRains. It's sad, season 3, if you even want to call it a season. It's a season that's going to last, I believe, 17 episodes because it started in 103, maybe 7. I think it's actually 18 episodes, but man, it flew by. And opening 3 is going to be the longest lasting opening in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it literally only lasted 18 episodes. I mean, just for reference, people said that GX Season 4 was short, which I felt it was short. GX Season 4 had 24 episodes. So even this season had about a month and a half less of episodes than GX Season 4 did. Now, I liked Season 4 of GX very well. The big difference is when GX Season 4 started, we already had about 160 episodes with the crew. When this season started, we only had 103 episodes. So GX had an entire extra year of action, of plot, of character development. Not saying that this is going to be a bad ending by any means. I think this could end up being a pretty good ending, especially when you look back on the final 3 duels. Even the final 4 duels. I versus the Zizens was good. Robopi versus Soulburner I thought was really solid. Loved the Robopi death scene. And then Soulburner versus Revolver, that's going to be viewed as the ceremonial duel. Or that there just won't be a ceremonial duel for this show, obviously, because Playmaker versus I is going to go till the very end. I think when we look back at VRains, at least myself, I'm going to say that Revolver versus Soulburner was the ceremonial duel, even though it was not the final duel, even though it did not include the protagonist. It just felt like a great wrap-up for both of those characters. The duel itself was amazing. The animation was amazing. It's like they did use No Gilbo. They used their best animator and their best resources for the end of that duel, maybe because they just knew that that duel was going to be one of the more emotionally powerful duels towards the end of the show. So, Soulburner versus Revolver is definitely going to be a highlight of this season for me, and I think for many people. But it is a shame that the show is ending. It's sad. I don't really know the reason for it. I don't think there's anything that I personally can say to make a lot of people feel better. But for 6 months, it's going to be tough, guys. But we have a very great supportive community, and we'll get through it. Just one thing at a time. In 2.5 months is Jump Festa. We should get some news on Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 there, maybe even before Jump Festa. So I know it's 6 months until the new show starts, but we should start to get information trickling in about that new show very, very soon, I would imagine, in, again, like 2.5 months. And, I'll be doing top 10 lists in regards to VRains. I'll be doing top 5 lists with my friends on live streams that have been watching VRains. So there still will be a good amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains content from me in the future, and hopefully that will help pass the time. Again, even though the show is taking a 6-month break, I will be continuing to make videos, maybe not as often, but I will be making videos. I do promise you that. I'll have a formal update video when that happens, but it hasn't really hit me yet. I mean, I already kind of mourned this about 2 weeks ago when all the staffers were tweeting about how it was their final episode, when V-Jump, once again for the second straight month, said that the climax was here, when a new anime was replacing VRains in October. That was the day that I felt very sad, and I kind of knew it was over. It's very similar to when someone tells you that a very older, elderly relative is in hospice. Hospice is usually the final stage, and that's when you begin to mourn that they're going to be gone, that they're going to pass on. And then when it actually happens, it's sad, but you've already got a lot of that mourning out. That's kind of like what I feel with this, because I would have loved for VRains to go until the end of the year, to March 2020 for another 24 episodes. But the writing was on the wall. If a reason ever comes out as to why it ended way earlier than anticipated, I will, of course, do a video on that. Yeah, it definitely is a shame, guys. I'm going to read you the 120 summary. I've already gone over the 118 and 119 summaries. I will have that video linked down below, but I will quickly read all of the summaries, actually, and then just talk about 120 really quickly. So if you do not want any spoilers, now is your chance to click off the video. 3, 2, 1, let's go. 118, a reckless proposal. Playmaker barely manages to fend off Ai's attacks. Having found an opening, Playmaker attempts to launch an attack against Ai. However, Ai knows Playmaker inside and out and can predict everything he will do. Ai then unites the feelings of all the Ignises and brings out the advent of the ultimate Cyberse monster. 119, a broken ego. Having learned about Ai's sorrow, Playmaker tries to convince him to stop the battle. However, Ai has already made up his mind and won't back down no matter what. As the two's battle continues to rage on, Ai makes a proposal to Playmaker. And then 120, which is a new summary and has the final episode mark next to it. Yoshida, by the way, the main writer, will be writing all of these episodes. Episode 120, a connected world. Both Playmaker and Ai have come to acknowledge each other's ideals, the importance of connections to humans, and what an AI ultimately desires, respectively. The two then use everything they have left to settle their battle once and for all. Just how will their duel conclude? Now, episode 120, a connected world. I think that's in reference to how this episode is going to connect all of the worlds, including Yu-Gi-Oh! 7, from all the past Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm kidding. I'm completely kidding. It would be amazing, but I don't, it would be great if VRains did end on some sort of cliffhanger that was handled in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7. I would love that. Obviously, a connected world is in reference to humans and AI living together, and we're going to get a lot of good dialogue throughout this duel. Towards the end of it, Playmaker and Ai are going to come to some sort of at least mutual understanding, if not agreement, because you can understand where someone comes from without agreeing with their stance. That's probably what we're going to see in 120. They're going to settle their battle. I mean, it's obviously going to end in a Playmaker win, right? Obviously. Unless Ai wins, which would be stunning. Unless it's a draw, which would be stunning. But I just hope that with this episode, the duel ends in the first 10 minutes. I really hope the duel ends in the first 10 minutes. And then the final 10 minutes, we just get a real-world conclusion. We get a nice emotional wrap-up between Yusaku and Shoichi. between Ryoken and Homura. It would be amazing if they did what Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds did, where they actually show us the fates of all the main characters 5 years from now. Of course, they didn't show us Yusei's fate, but if they did that with this show and they didn't show us Yusaku's fate, I would be just as fine with that. I think that's kind of a cool, ambiguous ending, and it would be really cool if that's how it ended. I just hope it doesn't. They don't do what Arc 5 did, where the Yuya Reiji duel literally ended with a minute of the show left, or maybe like 2.5 minutes, and then Burn hit. They usually do play a song. With Zexal, it was the first opening. With Arc 5, it was the second opening. With 5Ds, it was the fifth ending, right? It was the current ending, I believe. So I hope, and with GX, I don't know if they actually did a song towards the end for GX, but with VRains, I can see them doing With the Wind. I could also see them doing Believe in Magic. I think they'll do one of those two songs to play us out, but I just hope that this duel does not end with 2 minutes of the show left, and we get no closure on what happens to these characters, or what these characters are going to be facing or approaching. You know, Zexal had a good conclusion with that, even though the Yuma Astral duel ended kind of late in that episode. That still was fine with me. We knew what was next for those characters. They were all in unison going to Astral World. With Arc 5, all that we know is going to happen next is Yuya versus Yugioh. But we don't know, you know, it kind of felt a little empty there. So I hope that VRains does not do that, and we do get some good dialogue after this duel and some good wrap-ups for a lot of these characters. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this. It's sad, and I wish there was something I could say that would make people feel a little less sad, because I know a lot of people are upset at the news, understandably so. It's going to be weird with no Yu-Gi-Oh! For so long, but we will get through it, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to leave all your thoughts on this down below. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, James Rose, Samuel Stark, Thomas Adderley, Horace Maye, Goosey Q, Vincent Van Der Veen, Jordan Osceola, Smith620, Galladiator, FrostReaper, Jorge Leon, and Blue Maiden 28, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Melinda Phantom, and Ben Hartz, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, Syn Cloud, and Joss Rivers. Thank you to everyone who is a patron, thank you to everyone who is a channel member, and thank you to everyone who just watches these videos. I am so fortunate to be part of an amazing community. Please leave all your thoughts down below. I will talk to you down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.